interaction is what I always expect from my presentations. Yeah. So I would like everyone to try to guess the word and what's the word that links these four together. Okay, so that's the task that you have, right? I'm going to show you a slide after this. And from the pictures on the slide, the 4 pictures on the slide, you're going to think of the word that links these four together and put your answer on the chat box. Okay, put your answer in the chat box and see who does it first. All right, ready? Go. Okay, why not moving? There we go. Chat box. All right, so Yu Chao Kwan has got it. Hot. Okay. People who use emotion happiness didn't read the question, didn't read the clue. 3 letters. Huh? Okay. All right, next. Hot is the answer. Next, what's the word that links these 4 together? 5 letters. Yu Chao Kwan, very fast also. Right. Excellent. Okay, so the answer is right. Yeah. And that's the start of my presentation, how to deliver an effective oral presentation. And I started with what they call the hook, okay, which is basically get the audience's attention, okay? The hook can be anything depending on what the purpose of the presentation is, the audience, right? And you might start with a game if you're talking to, say, a bunch of school kids. You might start with a quiz if you're talking to medical students, or you might start with something just random, just to make sure that everyone's awake and paying attention. All right. So that's the hook. And then you move on to the actual oral presentation. Yeah. And today, this is going to be on how to give an effective oral presentation. And I've decided to break it down into 3 sections, which is basically what an oral presentation is all about. It's an audio visual presentation, AVP, right? And each of these alphabets means something. Audio is know your audience. So A for A, audio, visual, presentation. A is for knowing your audience. Visual stands for effective visuals. Yeah. And presentation stands for practice, practice, practice. Jasmine said that, and I know I'm saying a few things that I think Vi and Jasmine said as well, but that's just because this is what we expect from an effective presentation. All right. So let's take these things one by one. Yeah. So A, starting with A, know your audience. This picture is my son. He's 9 years old. He's wearing goggles because we bought him a new set of goggles, so he wanted to try it out. And then he likes us to take pictures of him so that he knows how he looks. I don't know why he doesn't look in the mirror, but he likes people taking pictures of him so that he can then look at the photo and see, oh, that's how I look with my goggles, all right? And he asked me the question the other day, so I brought him to a pusat vaccine on Menara Selatan, 13th floor, for his first vaccine. And then at lunch, when I took him out for lunch after that, he said, actually, Mommy, how do vaccines work? All right. And I'm going to select someone, or maybe someone can volunteer. How would you have explained to my son, he's 9 years old, how do vaccines work? Someone try. You don't try, I'm going to choose a name.
I can try.
Yeah, who's this?
Anura.
Anura, okay, yeah, go ahead, Anura.
So probably I could explain first if does he know what an infection is?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. So maybe I can ask him first if he knows what an infection is when you fall sick. And so a vaccine is something that helps to try to stop that from happening.
Okay, all right. Do you have kids?
No.
No? Okay, all right. So how I explained it to him, because I know my son better than you know my son, right? So how I explained it to him is that it's like you're fighting the enemy, because he likes these stories and these movies, right? He likes all the Marvel movies, right? So it's like you're fighting an enemy. If you don't know what the enemy looks like, how do you fight the enemy? So the vaccine is like a picture of the enemy. You recognize the enemy so that the next time you see the enemy, you know who it is, and that's how you know how to fight the enemy. Okay, got it? That's how I explained how a vaccine works. Then he asked me, why do you need a second vaccine? And then why do you need a booster vaccine? And so then I explained, well, sometimes you don't remember very well when you see the picture for the first time. So you need to see the picture a few times, which is why you need that's why you need 1 or 2 more vaccines, so that it reminds you what your enemy looks like, so that you know how to fight the enemy. And then he's very happy with the answer. Okay, yeah? Would you explain it the same way to this lady over here? You know who this is? I'm not going to ask Anura. I will ask Dinesh. Dinesh, do you know who this lady is over here?
Prof. Adiba.
Yeah. Would you explain it the same way to her?
No.
Absolutely not,
Definitely
right?
not. Yeah.
You would be quaking in your feet because you would be thinking she's going to examine you and you might fail your Masters of General Surgery because you couldn't answer a question on vaccines, right? Okay, so this is a simple example of why we need to know our audience, right? So you need to know who is going to be there. And it may be medical students, right? And you guys teach students as well, right? You may have to give presentations to, say, a student crowd, right? It may be to other surgeons and perhaps to us, right? Your lecturers, your trainers, your supervisors, to peers, so perhaps to other trainees at your own level. Or it might be to the community that you're trying to teach about certain conditions, say, create awareness about CA prostate or CA breast, right? So you need to know who will be there because how you approach them and how you talk to them is going to be different depending on your audience. Another thing you need to think about, are they going to be Malaysian, right? Are they going to be foreigners? And are they going to be foreigners who speak the same language as the native language, English, if we're going to be using English? Or are you going to be speaking English, but to an audience who do not speak English as a native language? Because then you're going to modify how and what you say. All right, so who will be there is a very important question to help you design an effective presentation, because this will tell you, number one, language complexity. If you're speaking to a non-native English speaking audience, I would slow down. I would emphasize my words slowly and clearly. I would not speak as fast as I always speak at my walk rounds and meetings, right? And I would be sure to use words that are easily understood. My communication style would be very different compared, say, speaking to my son and speaking to Prof. Adiba. My communication style is going to be very different, right? And you have to make adjustments according to the language they understand, right? So if you speak to a local audience, let's say you speak to a public, you're speaking at a public awareness talk, you might throw in some colloquialisms, you might throw in some local language, local dialect, depending, right? If you're speaking to Hokkien Association, you might throw in some Hokkien dialect. You're speaking to someone at a local community hall, you might throw in whatever language it is that they understand, right? And that is to help to make the presentation approachable to them. But you certainly would not be doing so if you're presenting your thesis, for example, right? Which brings me to the next point, which is the purpose of the presentation, right? You have to know what the purpose of the presentation is. For example, how you present to a large hall at an annual scientific conference in an international surgical week, say, right? Where there are many people coming in from all over the world, and hopefully that will happen soon by next year, where people come in from all over the world listening to you give your talk. That's going to be very different from, say, once again, public awareness, community awareness, or your thesis defense or thesis proposal to your supervisors. Okay? How you tailor the presentation will be different. And knowing the purpose of the presentation will tell you your required layout, right? So if it's a very formal presentation, let's say at an annual scientific meeting, a large meeting, they will tell you how many minutes exactly that you have, what should be in your template. If you're presenting to a grant funding committee, they will tell you exactly what they need to know, yeah? Your content, of course, needs to be tailored according to the purpose of the presentation and the focus of the message as well, right? So if you're going to be pitching for a grant to examine, say, the kidney calculi, right? Versus public awareness about kidney stones and how they and what to look out for, the focus of the message will be very different. Yeah. Next is effective visuals. Okay. Pretty colors, nice pastel green, nice mint green, very fashionable, right? Sweet pastel pink. They look really nice together, right? Sweet baby pink with white font on top. Pastel baby blue with white font. Okay, this one not so pastel. This is a bit darker, But is this color scheme better? Actually, probably not, right? Why is this the case? So although they look very pretty on screen, they don't stand out at all in a large hall where there's projection on the large screen. All right. So these, they look really nice now if you're sitting in front of a computer on your PowerPoint, but they actually don't show at all on a large screen in a large hall. So you need to know what you're going to be projecting where. Okay. So all as sweet and as nice as they look, it's really not the best color scheme. Okay. This is not pastel, but you can see that there's actually very little contrast. You're going dark blue on light blue. Okay. What you should aim for is contrast for optimal visual impact. Most people advise a dark screen with a light font on a dark background, because this shows up best when you're projecting on a screen overhead, right? So you cannot just rely on what you see on your computer in front of you, because your computer is going to be very different from what people see in real life. Remember also, right, that if, for example, you're presenting to your supervisors, you're presenting your thesis defense, you're presenting at an annual conference, many of the people will be older than you. We're all long-sighted, and some of us are both long-sighted and severely myopic, all right? So we will not be able to see what you write, what you are projecting. So you need to use contrast for optimal visual impact. This is very poor visual impact. When you use light on dark, the same spectrum, right? So you use light blue on dark blue, very poor visual impact. This is nice, optimal visual impact. Yellow or light on dark. Okay, so poor, nice, poor, nice. Okay. Font. I know Vi mentioned that just now, and I'm glad we both agree, right? Sans serif font, for example, Arial, Calibri, MS Sans serif, right, stands out better on a presentation. All right, versus a serif font such as Times New Roman, Georgia, Lucida, etc. They look very nice on the written page in a book, but they don't stand out well on a presentation. Okay, number of objects. Now, this, again, many of the PEACH trainees will know I hate slides like this. And then when someone projects a slide like this, they say, the first thing they say when they project a slide like this is apology for the busy slides. Don't give the busy slide. Why give the busy slide, right? If you're going to put up a busy slide and then apologize for putting up the busy slide, you might as well not put up a busy slide and don't apologize for it. Okay? So don't put up slides like this. Analyze the data that you want to present so that the reader can come along the journey with you. That's what Jasmine said, right? You have to guide the viewer along the journey of the presentation. Okay, so get ready. This requires some interaction again. So get ready on your keyboards. How many dots do you see? Chat box, quick. All right, who was first? Tan Wei Sheng. All right, okay. So Wei Sheng, you're first. Yes, so 24, right? How many? Okay, so who was first? Anura was first, okay? And finally, this is 12, yeah, all right. Finally, how many? Voila, all right, very fast, right? You can see yourselves getting faster and faster and faster, right? Okay, so who got the 6? Anura, excellent, you got the 6, okay? Did you feel yourself getting faster and faster and faster, right? And what did Jasmine say just now? How many objects should be on the screen at one time? 6 is the maximum that should be on the screen at one time. Don't crowd the screen. Don't overload your audience, right? Don't, we know all the tricks, right? You're putting everything there because you're so afraid they're going to forget. You're so afraid that they'll ask you a question you cannot answer. You put everything there and let them read it for themselves. But that doesn't work if you want to provide or want to give an effective presentation. Okay, so 6 is the maximum number of objects that you should put up on the screen. And you could see yourself that as you counted, you got faster and faster and faster. 6 was the fastest because that is the number that can easily, you can just look at it and you know that that's a number 6, all right? So, no, yeah, let's not have any more of these kind of apology for a crowded slide kind of slide, right? Just analyze, focus, take out what it is that you want to present to your audience, okay? Animation, one of my favorite things as well. Animation, effective use of PowerPoint animation. Okay, so I'm taking you through this slide. This is a slide of photographs of current and past female presidents or prime ministers all over the world. All right. And President Laura Chinchilla from Costa Rica is the top left corner. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf from Liberia is actually the third from the left on the top tier. And President Mary McAleese from Ireland is the last on the right in the middle tier. Bee Hong Soon. Bee Hong Soon, you there?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. So who is president? Can you point? Can you tell me which one is President Mary McAleese?
Last on the right,
Which one?
the rightmost and lowermost.
Rightmost and lowermost. Okay. Let's ask someone else. Jason Kaur. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Liberia. Who?
The third from the first row, third on the left.
Third from left on the first row. Okay. And one more person. Nurfatin Najla. Nurfatin. Which one is President Laura Chinchilla, Costa Rica? Fatin? Nurfatin? Are you there?
Sorry, Prof.
Yeah. Which one is President Laura Chinchilla from Costa Rica?
Third from the left, the first row.
Okay, all right. So of the three who answered, two got it wrong and one got it right. Okay, and why was that? Because I showed you a mess of pictures. Just threw out three names and said everything very fast. Okay, let's see if I do this, whether everyone will get it right. Yeah. So this is President Laura Chinchilla from Costa Rica. This is President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf from Liberia. This is President Mary McAleese from Ireland. Okay. Siva Nathan Ramasamy. Siva, can you tell me who's President Laura Chinchilla?
The first one on the left, on topmost.
Okay, good. What about who is Zulfikar? Zul,
Yes, Prof.
who is President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf?
Ellen Johnson at the top, from the left, the third from the left.
Okay, and one more try. Who wants to try the last one?
I can try, Prof.
Yeah, go ahead.
The President Mary McAleese is the second row, and the last image.
Excellent. So excellent. So 3 of 3, just by the use of effective animation. Right? I hope I demonstrated that. Okay. There are many ways to do this on PowerPoint. I just showed you one of the new things that they have introduced on PowerPoint, which is called a morphing transition. Okay, but this is how you help the audience focus on the message that you have. All right. And remember, yeah. So also more pictures, less words. Yeah. Is this familiar? Huh? How many of you have presentations like this? You cut and paste one picture of the CT scan report and say, well, I think we have to read through nasogastric tube with large multisystem mass dominances within C occupying of the. All right, then you punch it there, and then everyone has to read through it, and then we're not sure what is what, right? Isn't it way better to do this? You've got a large cyst in the left hemithorax with mediastinal shift, right? Even better when you use an arrow to point out the features that you want to show, right? Same here, another example. A well-defined large right-sided intra-abdominal mass measuring approximately 10 by 7 across the midline. Much more effective. We as surgeons, we are picture people, right? Much more effective if you're using pictures to describe rather than a long report. Even better with arrows pointing at the large right-sided calcified tumor that is sitting on the right side of the abdomen, causing a mass effect on the aorta, shifting it to the left, and also a mass effect on the kidney, pushing it down, right? Almost down to the pelvis, right? So much easier to send the message across, more pictures, less words. Finally, practice, practice, practice. That's what Dr. Jasmine said as well, right? You would never, as a musician or a dancer or anyone performing, you would never go on stage without practicing first. I don't know how many of you have done some kind of performance in school. I believe many of you have some kind of performance, whether it's school or college or university, right? But you would never ever go without practicing, right? Same for your clinicals, your vivas, right? You'll be practicing your clinical examination skills. You will never go for the exam without practicing. So don't go for a presentation without practicing first. The more important it is, the more you should be practicing, okay? And why is that? Number one, at least you can stick to your allocated time, right? Leave time for questions, don't run into someone else's time, right? If you're allocated 8 minutes for your thesis presentation, stick to the 8 minutes. If it's 8 plus 2, 8 for presentation, 2 plus questions, stick to the 8, leave 2 for question time. Okay, and it's practicing that will tell you how long you need. So if we go back to the question just now about how many slides per presentation, that really depends actually. As a general rule, yes, 1 minute per slide, but actually really depends on how long you're spending on the slide and what you're using that slide for. Okay, so you can have 40 slides all with 1 word each, and it may be a very effective presentation. So it depends on what you're using the slides for. Okay, next is self-recording. This is actually really, really important. Okay, especially if you're not used to recording, to presenting, or if it's something that's really, really important, your final thesis defense before you sit for your exam. If it's something really important, you record yourself presenting, you show it to others, watch it yourself, ask for feedback from others, and you watch it yourself because you will see that, and you will note that you will use fillers such as, we all do it, right? We all do it, but it is particularly important for a very important presentation that you eliminate all the fillers like right? Those fill up time, but they add nothing to the presentation. Okay. And finally, you must know your work. Slides are not crutches. You're not meant to show a slide and then use your pointer to read the slide. It's not a teleprompter, right? Your slides are supposed to illustrate the concise message that you want to send to your audience. So you must know your work very well so that you do not need to rely on your slides. You need to know what it is your slides want to convey, and you shouldn't be using them as a teleprompter. Okay? So this is a really, really nice YouTube video that I think everyone should watch, How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint, by this guy called David J.P. Phillips. He has done research on how effective oral presentations can be. He has surveyed 7,000, I think more than 7,000 people, I think maybe nearly 9,000 people, on what make the best presentations. Okay, so if you can, watch it. It's very funny as well. So finally, summarize audiovisual presentation, know your audience, use effective visuals, and practice, practice, practice.